I met Tyler this summer before senior year. It was the kind of summer where everything felt like it was falling into place. Sunsets on the lake, music festivals with friends, and the overwhelming thrill of knowing that adulthood was just around the corner. I wasn't looking for love, but Tyler had that magnetic charm, the kind that made you believe every word he said was dipped in gold. He worked at the local ice cream shop, the one all the teenagers went to after dark. I remember the first time he served me. He made a goofy joke about mixing up my order just to get my number. I laughed, rolled my eyes, and gave it to him anyway. We started texting nonstop, staying up late on the phone, sneaking out to meet each other at 2 a.m. behind the bookstore downtown. He made me feel like I was the only girl in the world. He told me I was different. "You're not like the other girls," he'd say, brushing hair out of my face. "You actually see me." At first, things were magical. But then I started noticing little things. Whenever I'd ask about meeting his parents, he'd freeze up. "They're just intense," he'd say. "Judgmental. They won't like you." I tried not to take it personally at first, but the more I asked, the more defensive he got. "They think you're from the wrong side of town," he told me one night as we sat in his truck overlooking the lake. "You're smart and beautiful, but my mom is obsessed with status. She wants me with some prep school valedictorian with rich parents and perfect teeth. Not someone who works part-time and lives with a single mom in an apartment." His words stung, but I believed him. I believed everything he told me. Because that's what you do when you love someone. I'd never had a boyfriend like him before. He was intense, protective, and affectionate, always texting to check in, always wanting to know where I was, who I was with. At the time, I thought it meant he cared. I mistook obsession for love, control for concern. Still, I couldn't help but feel this growing knot in my chest. Why had I never met his parents after a whole year? Why did we always hang out at my place, but never his? Once, I tried to surprise him. It was his birthday, and I showed up at his house with a homemade cake and a dumb card I'd spent hours making. I knocked. No one answered. But through the window, I saw shadows move. Someone was definitely home. Later that night, he called, furious. "Why would you do that?" he snapped. "I told you my parents would flip if they knew about us." I remember feeling so small, like I'd overstepped some boundary I never agreed to. But then, like always, he apologized. Said he was just scared. Said he loved me so much, it terrified him that his family might ruin it. And somehow, I ended up apologizing to him. That's how it always went. Tyler had a way of twisting things, making me question myself, gaslighting me without ever raising his voice. He played the victim so well, and I didn't realize until much later that I was the one constantly bleeding. By the time graduation came around, we were still together, but things had changed. I'd gotten into a local college. He wasn't sure if he wanted to go. He said he needed time to figure things out, but deep down, I knew he just didn't want me drifting away from him. Anytime I brought up my future, he got weird. "You're going to leave me," he'd whisper. "I know you are. You'll go off, meet someone richer, smarter. Someone your mom actually approves of." It always circled back to him. His fear. His pain. His parents. His insecurities. Never mine. I spent so long trying to prove I was good enough, that I was worthy of his love, that I could somehow win over the imaginary parents who had never even met me, but hated me from afar. I kept thinking, if I just hang on a little longer, he'll stand up for me. He'll introduce me. He'll fight for me. But he never did. And then, things got worse. He started pulling away, missing dates, ignoring texts for hours. And when I'd ask about it, he'd accuse me of being clingy. "God, not everything is about you," he snapped one night. "Maybe I just need space." Ever think of that? I cried the whole drive home. Still, I didn't leave. Because I thought loving someone meant staying, even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. It wasn't until I caught him messaging another girl on Instagram that I finally snapped. Her name was Kayla. They had been flirting back and forth for weeks. She sent selfies. He sent heart eyes. It was all there, out in the open. When I confronted him, he didn't even deny it. She understands me, he said. You've been so needy lately. It's exhausting. That's when I walked away. For good. Or so I thought. But the real story, the truth I never saw coming, started 3 weeks after we broke up. When his mother showed up in my DMs with a message that changed everything I thought I knew about Tyler and our entire relationship. 3 weeks after I walked away from Tyler, I was slowly putting the pieces of myself back together. I started journaling again. I applied for a summer internship at a local newspaper. I dyed my hair darker, some weird symbolic attempt at shedding the version of me that had spent too long begging for crumbs of love. I was trying. It still hurt, but I was trying. Then on a rainy Thursday evening while scrolling through my DMs, I saw her name. Mrs. Lauren Matthews. It took me a moment to process. At first, I thought it had to be fake. A scam. Some sick joke. But it was her, Tyler's mom. The woman I'd never met, the woman he had painted as cold, cruel, and classist. She'd never reached out before. Not once. And now, suddenly, a message? It simply said, "Hi. I know this is strange. I'm sorry to reach out like this, but I need to tell you something about Tyler. Please don't ignore this. It's important." My heart pounded. I stared at the screen for at least 10 minutes. I debated deleting it, blocking her. I didn't want to be dragged back into the emotional wreckage Tyler left behind. I didn't want anything more to do with that chapter of my life. But something in me, a mix of fear and curiosity, clicked reply. I typed cautiously. "Hi. I'm not sure what this is about, but okay. I'm listening." The dots appeared. And then disappeared. And then appeared again. It felt like hours before she finally responded. "First, I want to say I'm sorry. For everything. For never reaching out sooner. You probably hate me. And I don't blame you. But I need you to know something. We never hated you. Not even for a second." My throat went dry. "What?" I read it again. I felt dizzy. "Wait." I typed back. "You didn't hate me?" But Tyler said, "He told me you judged me. That you thought I wasn't good enough for him. That you'd disown him if you knew we were together." Her reply was almost instant. "That's what he told you?" Oh God. No, that's not true. That's what he wanted you to believe. And I've been quiet for too long about why. The air in my room felt heavy, like the truth was pressing against my walls, waiting to burst. "Then why?" I asked. "Why would he lie about that?" There was a pause. And then she sent a long message. A paragraph that cracked my world wide open. "Tyler's father and I separated 3 years ago. Not publicly. We wanted to keep up appearances. But the truth is, our marriage was falling apart. Tyler took it hard. He blamed me for everything. And ever since, he's had this need to control the people around him, especially the girls he dates. He wants to isolate them. Make them depend on him. It's not just you. He did this to his last girlfriend too." I couldn't breathe. I had always thought it was me. That I was the problem. That if I had been smarter, prettier, richer, more polished, maybe his parents would have liked me. But they never even got the chance to meet me. "We asked about you," she wrote. "Many times." He'd always change the subject. When I finally pushed, he told us you didn't want to meet us. That you thought we were too stuck up. He twisted everything. I blinked back tears. My hands were shaking as I typed. "Why are you telling me this now?" Her next message was short. "Because I saw your graduation post. And I saw what he commented underneath it. I want you to know the real reason he kept you away." I had posted a photo the week before, me in my cap and gown, beaming, holding my acceptance letter to the college I'd worked so hard to get into. The caption was simple: "We did it." Tyler had commented, "Glad to see you doing fine without me. Guess your dreams were always more important than us." At the time, I'd ignored it. But now, it hit me differently. "He always wanted control," she continued. "When he felt you slipping away, becoming more independent, more confident, that's when he started sabotaging. Making you feel like he was the only person who truly saw you. It's not love. It's manipulation." Everything started clicking. The guilt trips. The paranoia. The late night fights that always ended with me apologizing. It wasn't love. It was ownership. Tyler had made me believe his parents hated me to isolate me. He painted himself as the misunderstood hero and me as the fragile, broken girl who needed saving. And I believed it. His mom wasn't done. "I want to apologize for never pushing harder, for letting him lie about us." I was scared too. I didn't want to lose my son completely. But seeing what he did to you, it broke my heart. "You didn't deserve that." I sat in silence for a long time. Everything I thought I knew was unraveling. "Thank you for telling me," I finally wrote. "It means more than you know." She replied with one last message. "You deserve someone who lifted you up, not kept you small. Don't let what he did stop you from shining." That night, I cried. But for the first time, it wasn't because of heartbreak. It was because I was finally starting to see the truth. Tyler didn't hide me because he loved me too much. He hid me because he feared losing control. And the person I thought was my enemy, his mom, had been silenced and misrepresented, just like I was. The next day, I blocked Tyler for good. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. I was finally done letting someone else write the story of who I was. After I blocked Tyler, something strange happened. For the first time in over a year, I felt light, not healed, not whole, not even okay, but light, like I had finally dropped the weight I didn't even know I'd been carrying. The constant second guessing. The way I used to look in the mirror and wonder if I was too much or not enough. The anxiety every time my phone buzzed, terrified it was him picking another fight disguised as a conversation. All of it, gone. I started focusing on me. Not the version of me that Tyler liked, not the one I shrunk into to make him feel safe, but me, the real one I'd almost forgotten existed. I got the internship. It didn't pay much, but it gave me a purpose again. Every day after work, I'd sit by the window with my laptop, writing articles about small town stories that nobody else cared about. But I cared. It was the first time in months I felt like I was building something that had nothing to do with him. But still, there were echoes. Little moments that brought him back without warning. Like when I saw a couple arguing in the parking lot and the girl kept apologizing even though she had tears streaming down her face. And I just knew, that kind of apology wasn't for something she did. It was survival. Or when I found one of his old hoodies in the back of my closet and realized how long I'd worn it to sleep just because it made me feel safe. Even after he broke me. Trauma leaves a trail. Even when the person is gone, the damage whispers from the corners of your mind. But I was done listening. That summer, I started going to a support group for young women dealing with emotional abuse and manipulation. I didn't think I needed it at first. I thought my story wasn't bad enough to count. But the first time I walked into that room, I realized how many versions of me were sitting in that circle. Girls with different names, different faces, but the same tired eyes. The same shame. The same confusion over why love hurts so much. It was there, in that circle, that I met Jules. She was older than me by a couple of years, with fierce curly hair and a laugh that could crack concrete. She listened to my story like it was familiar. Like she'd lived it too. After the meeting, we got coffee. And that turned into weekly hangouts, then daily texts, then this deep, soul-level friendship that I didn't even know I was missing. One day, as we sat on the porch of her aunt's house, drinking lemonade and talking about red flags, I finally told her everything. About Tyler. About how he made me feel like I wasn't enough. about how he made his mom seem like a villain when she was just as silenced as I was, about how he lied and twisted and turned everything into a test I could never pass. Jules didn't interrupt. She just let me talk. And when I was done, she said something I'll never forget. You were never too much for him. He was just too small to handle your light. It hit me right in the chest. Because deep down, I had spent so long believing I had to dim myself to be loved. That ambition made me selfish. That confidence made me arrogant. That having boundaries made me difficult. But the truth was, Tyler didn't love me despite those things. He couldn't love me because of them. Because the more I grew, the more power I had to walk away. And that terrified him. I went home that night and wrote a letter to myself. Not to Tyler. Not to his mom. Not to anyone else. Just me. I wrote about the girl I used to be. The one who believed love meant proving yourself worthy of staying. I wrote about the girl I was becoming. The one who realized she never had to earn respect, just expect it. And I promised that girl I'd never go back. Never shrink again. Never mistake control for care. A week later, I got another message from a name I didn't recognize. At first, I ignored it. But then I saw the preview text. Hey, you don't know me, but I used to date Tyler too. I found your profile through a mutual friend. I think we need to talk. My stomach twisted. Her name was Rachel. And what she told me next made everything I'd been through seem like just the beginning of something much darker Tyler had been hiding all along. I hesitated for a full day before responding to Rachel's message. There was something about it, maybe the way she worded it, maybe just the fact that she existed, that made me feel exposed all over again. I'd only just begun to reclaim parts of myself. The thought of going back into Tyler's mess, even through someone else's story, felt dangerous. But curiosity is loud. So I finally wrote back. Hi. I'm not sure what this is about, but yeah. I dated him for over a year. Why are you reaching out? She responded immediately. Because I know what he did to you. And because I need to know I'm not the only one. We agreed to meet up in person. Neutral ground. A quiet coffee shop 2 towns over where no one knew either of us. When I walked in, I spotted her right away, nervously stirring her drink, eyes scanning the door like she was expecting Tyler to walk in behind me. She stood when she saw me. You look exactly how I imagined, she said with a tired smile. We ordered drinks and sat down, and then she began. Rachel dated Tyler for almost a year before me. And everything she said sounded painfully familiar. He'd love-bombed her in the beginning. Flowers for no reason. Middle of the night calls saying she was the only one who understood him. Compliments that made her feel like she was on top of the world. And then, the shift. He told me his parents hated me too, she said, eyes locked on mine. Said they thought I was trashy. That they wanted him with someone more polished, more put together. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was identical. Word for word. He used the same story on her. Rachel's voice started to shake. He made me feel like I was lucky to have him. Like no one else would ever want me. I stopped hanging out with friends, quit the dance team, even started skipping classes just to keep him happy. I saw myself in her. The version of me I'd buried. The girl I used to be before I knew better. But then she told me something that made my blood run cold. He pushed things. Crossed boundaries. And when I finally tried to leave, he spread rumors about me. Said I was the one who cheated. He made me out to be the villain. I felt my throat tighten. Tyler had done that to me too. The night I broke up with him, he posted some vague story about being betrayed by the one person who swore they'd never hurt him. Mutual friends started messaging me, asking what I did. And just like that, I was the bad guy. Rachel paused, then reached into her bag and pulled out a small notebook. She slid it across the table to me. I kept this. It's dumb, but I wrote everything down while we were dating. Every weird fight, every lie, every time I felt like I was losing myself. I opened it slowly. The first page was dated almost 2 years ago. The entries were raw, unfiltered. Notes about Tyler tracking her location through Snap Maps. Screenshots of texts where he'd tell her she was overreacting when she cried. Logs of when he disappeared for hours and gaslit her about where he'd been. One line caught my eye. He says no one will ever love me like he does. Maybe that's not a good thing. I closed the notebook, trying to steady my breath. I wanted to scream. Not just for me. Not just for Rachel. But for all the girls like us, spun into Tyler's orbit, convinced that pain was part of passion. How did you get out? I asked quietly. Rachel looked away. It wasn't just me, she said. His mom found one of my texts on his old iPad. A message I'd sent him begging him to stop threatening me when I said I wanted to leave. My eyes widened. She knew back then? Rachel nodded. She confronted him. And that's when he turned on her. Told her to stay out of his business. Cut her off for months. That's when I realized why his mom had reached out to me. She'd seen it before. She'd tried to stop it. But Tyler always kept his secrets tightly sealed, with shame, guilt, and manipulation as locks on every door. Rachel finished her drink and sighed. He's never going to change. Not unless someone forces him to face it. And the truth is, too many people are still fooled by him. They think he's charming, sweet, just a little intense. But you and I? We know better. I looked down at the notebook again. The weight of our stories, side by side, felt massive. Like we were finally unearthing something that had been buried for too long. What do we do? I asked. Rachel's expression hardened. We tell the truth. That night, I went home and wrote a letter. Not to Tyler. Not even for Tyler. But for the girls who came after. I posted it anonymously on a community support forum for survivors of emotional abuse. I told my story, every twist, every manipulation, every time I felt like I was losing myself in the name of love. And then I added Rachel's words. He says no one will ever love me like he does. Maybe that's not a good thing. Within hours, the post had hundreds of responses. Messages from strangers saying they saw themselves in my words. Girls who said they needed to hear it. Some who admitted they were still in it, but reading my story gave them the strength to want out. I didn't write it for revenge. I wrote it to heal. To reclaim. To close the door that Tyler had propped open in my mind for far too long. I didn't expect what came next. An email. From his mom. The subject line read, "Thank you for speaking your truth. But there's one more thing you deserve to know." And what she told me next was the final piece of the puzzle. The one truth Tyler had buried deeper than all the others. When I saw the email from Tyler's mom, subject line bold and cold and loaded with finality, I sat there for 10 full minutes, just staring at it. Thank you for speaking your truth. But there's one more thing you deserve to know. I was afraid to open it. Afraid that whatever was inside would pull me right back into the storm I'd barely escaped. But also, I had to know. Because even though I had closed the chapter, I still felt like I didn't have the full story. There were still shadows in the corners of everything Tyler said and did, things that never quite made sense. Things I had ignored or chalked up to his intensity. I clicked. The message wasn't long, but it shattered everything. I debated telling you this. I don't want to cause you more pain. But after reading what you shared, and after the strength you've shown, I believe you deserve to know the whole truth. The reason Tyler kept you away from us wasn't just control. It wasn't just fear. It was guilt. The summer before he met you, Tyler was dating a girl named Emily. She was bright, gentle, and full of hope, so much like you. He isolated her, too. Convinced her we didn't like her, told her she wasn't enough. The emotional toll was heavy. One night, she came to our house sobbing. She said she couldn't take it anymore. That he was making her feel like she was going crazy. She told me everything. How he'd twist her words, blame her for his bad moods. flirt with other girls just to watch her break down. I sat with her on our porch for hours. I told her to leave him, that she deserved better. And she did. The next day, Tyler found out she talked to me, and he snapped. He told her she'd betrayed him, that she'd ruined everything. And within a week, she dropped out of school, moved states away. No one's heard from her since. I've tried to find her, to make sure she's okay, but I couldn't. I live with that guilt every day. I think he knew deep down that if you ever met me, you'd figure it out, that you'd see through him, that you'd leave. And that terrified him. I sat in stunned silence. Emily. A name I'd never heard. A girl I'd never met. But somehow, I knew her. I could feel her presence in all the moments Tyler had slipped, the moments he looked terrified when I mentioned meeting his mom, or when he panicked after the surprise visit. He wasn't just trying to protect himself. He was trying to bury a past, a pattern. And now, it was clear. I wasn't the first. And I probably wouldn't have been the last. Unless someone stopped it. Unless someone said something. I wrote back. Thank you. I know this must have been hard for you. But I'm grateful. I'll never forget this. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not from fear, but because my mind was racing with all the truth I'd hidden from myself. All the times I'd ignored my gut because I wanted to believe him. Because I was so desperate to be chosen, I didn't notice that I was losing myself piece by piece. I realized something then. It wasn't just about Tyler. It was about me. About the girl I used to be. The one who waited for him to introduce me to his family like it was some kind of prize. The one who thought if I just loved him harder, he'd love me better. The one who shrank herself to fit into the tiny box he handed me and called love. But I wasn't that girl anymore. And I wasn't going to be silent. So, I wrote again. This time publicly. I shared my full story, names changed, but nothing held back. I told the truth about what emotional abuse looks like when it hides behind compliments. When it wears the mask of a protective boyfriend. When it makes you believe that suffering is the cost of being loved. I talked about Rachel. About Emily. About Tyler's mom and the pain she carried too. And the post went viral. Not in a flashy, influencer kind of way, but in the way stories spread when they strike a nerve, when people see themselves in your pain and realize they're not alone. Girls wrote to me from all over. This is my ex, word for word. I thought I was crazy. But you just told my story. Thank you for saying what I couldn't. It became something bigger than me. It became a warning. A lifeline. A mirror. And maybe, just maybe, a start to something safer for the next girl. Months passed. I went off to college. I made new friends. I kissed someone who made me laugh and didn't make me question my worth. I looked in the mirror and didn't see someone broken. I saw someone rebuilt. Stronger. Clearer. Wiser. One day, I got a small envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single note card, handwritten. I'm sorry. For everything. I hope you're happy now. T. I sat with it for a while. Not angry. Not relieved. Just done. I didn't need an apology. What I needed, I'd already given myself. Closure. Freedom. Truth. Love. Not from him, but from me. Because the most shocking truth of all, it was never about whether his family accepted me. It was about whether I did. And finally, I did.